Your NBC television station. This is KDUH Channel 4, serving the Panhandle.
Good evening, I'm Tom McArthur. Power in the Scottsbluff area was off for almost an hour this afternoon. Clock stopped, street lights stopped, and lights went out, but people went on more or less the same, albeit with a little less convenience. Newsline's Jeff Kelly reports.
The city of Scottsbluff was in total darkness for close to 40 minutes this afternoon as there was a major power outage. The outage affected all of the city of Scottsbluff, which is served by Nebraska Public Power. The outage occurred at the NPPD power plant on 1st Avenue when workers attempted to take the plant off the plant line and put it on to a transmission line. It was then that power was lost. In downtown Scottsbluff, no streetlights were operational, which made for some very cautious driving during the height of the Christmas shopping season. But the power outage didn't seem to affect the shoppers who went about their business in the dark. In fact, even Santa Claus could be seen getting some of his shopping done. For the most part, the outage was only a minor inconvenience to shoppers. Television station KDUH and other television and radio stations in Scottsbluff were knocked off the air until power was restored around 2:12 this afternoon. Reporting from Scottsbluff, Jeff Kelly for Newsline.
Lincoln attorney M.J. Bruckner says he expects to file a class action claim against the state on behalf of Commonwealth savings depositors early next week. Bruckner was appointed by interim state banking director John Miller to represent depositors' interests in the suit. Bruckner says he met with Miller yesterday to review documents on which his case will be based. Meanwhile, a Lincoln agency is distributing a list of local social service agencies that might offer help to depositors of the insolvent Commonwealth savings. An official of the Lincoln Lancaster Crisis Response Team says the lists will be included with the information mailed to depositors by the state banking department later this month. The city also will lend up to $1,500 to depositors for home energy repairs. Cattle King Company of Denver became the object of a federal investigation after an NBC News program broadcast a report in mid-September accusing it and Stanko Packing Company of processing meat under unsanitary conditions and violating government regulations. As Newsline's Marie Burgess reports, a congressional hearing in Denver yesterday investigated the allegations against the company, but there were many in attendance who felt the hearing was merely a kangaroo court and a political game of injustice.
Everyone had a story to tell yesterday in Denver, Colorado. For nearly 7 hours, witnesses testified before a congressional hearing concerning alleged wrongdoings by packing plants in Colorado and Nebraska owned by the Stanko family. U.S. Representative Tom Harkin headed the hearing, which produced testimony by government spokesmen, interest groups, former and current employees, health officials, and livestock representatives. The Stanko family earlier declined to testify, and due to a technicality, witnesses in support of the operation were few and allowed only a short time period at the end of the hearing to testify they saw no problems at the plant. In effect, most of the hearing was devoted to witnesses who told horror stories of unsanitary conditions at Cattle King, rats, maggots, flies, related schemes designed to disrupt competition, claimed the presence of illegal aliens, and indicated that dead cattle were used in the company's meat production.
The rats had started to eat the livers. They had rat droppings on top of the liver. And I was told to wash them off and keep my mouth shut.
It wasn't until many hours and witnesses later that Robert Chalupka, company lawyer, was allowed to make his presentation. Chalupka presented 4 former employees of the company as witnesses and said he had sworn statements from 30 others the company operation was clean and sanitary. In addition, Chalupka confirmed the support of many Panhandle residents in attendance at the hearing. It wasn't until a later news conference, however, that supporters were able to unofficially testify. Sentiment was largely that the hearing was conducted in a biased, one-sided manner, and that Representative Harkin had already made up his mind the company was guilty before the hearing began. Harkin repeatedly brought up the Stanko's history of past USDA violations and asked witnesses several times why the packers had been allowed to operate and supply meat to the school lunch program.
An individual is criminally minded and is determined to violate the law, that person can find a way to do so.
Stanko supporters were furious over what they termed the condemnation of the 3 plants in the absence of fact. Scottsbluff Mayor Don Overman called yesterday's proceedings a travesty of justice.
I think the chairman orchestrated the committee hearing yesterday the way he wanted it, and it was to prove the guilt of the people without giving them an opportunity for rebuttal. And I think it was a traversity on justice of the American system.
Nebraska Beef Processors President Dean Freop.
Also, Senator Hartkin did not, when he came into that meeting, he knew what he wanted to hear, and that's all he wanted to hear. I thought he was real disrespectful as far as our witness on the stand. He was constantly talking to his counsel. He was not paying attention to what they were saying.
The hearing is one of 3 scheduled to investigate and evaluate the Cattle King operation and the efficiency of the government's meat inspection program. In the meantime, however, bad publicity and the probe have resulted in Cattle King furloughing 180 workers for lack of business. And in addition, officials at the other affiliated plants have confirmed the economic damages inflicted upon the livestock industry as a whole are incalculable. Marie Burgess, Newsline.
Nebraska's unemployment rate rose slightly in November to 4.8%. That's up from October's rate of 4.6%, but well under the November rate of last year, which was 6.2%. Omaha's unemployment rate held steady for the month. Lincoln's was also up slightly. The State Labor Department says the increase was mainly seasonal, with more idle construction and farm workers. About 500 people held a 90-minute rally in front of the White House today in support of Faith Christian School in Louisville. Speakers included 7 women whose husbands have been jailed for refusing to answer questions during a court hearing about the reopening of the unapproved school. More than a dozen children also appeared. Speakers contended families have the right to choose how their children will be educated. The director of the Boys Town USA program has resigned. Ellery Phillips says he feels his work at Boys Town is complete and he wants to move on. The USA program involves developing group homes owned by Boys Town in other cities. Phillips joined the Boys Town staff in 1975. His resignation is effective December 31st. He was once the home's second-ranking administrator. Omaha's human fly was swatted in municipal court today with a $1,000 fine and 2 years probation for climbing a 22-story building in October. 24-year-old Michael McGuire of La Vista scaled the First National Bank building in downtown Omaha. McGuire said the climb was an attempt to publicize a planned expedition to the North Pole. Next to Cabbage Patch Kid dolls, telephones appear to be one of the hottest Christmas gifts this year, but various consumer groups are warning shoppers of potential rip-offs. Beth Planner at United Telephone here in Scottsbluff told us what to look for and what to look out for.
People need to keep in mind that they get what they pay for. And if you buy a $9 phone, it's probably worth $9, and it will not be of the quality of a $50 to $75 phone. Also, most of the cheaper ones are foreign-made, as opposed to usually the more expensive ones being American-made, which doesn't necessarily mean that they're of lower quality, but it's often difficult to get parts or impossible to get parts or service on the ones if they're foreign-made.
Planer also said people on party lines need to be particularly careful when choosing a phone, because if the instrument is not set up to work on a party line, it'll ring on everybody's phone calls. People in rural areas also need to be careful because of the power that is needed to make the phones ring over the distance. If you have any questions about buying a telephone, you can call the United Telephone Company Service Center at 635-3148. And we'll be right back.
And folks, we have a fantastic selection for you. All color, shape, size, and form.
When is a carpet a true value? And when is a carpet just a bargain? And how do you find out before it's too late? How important is expert installation? At our store, we really care how we cover your floors. When you choose quality carpeting from us, you're getting something we can both be proud of.
Shop Taylor Warehouse Carpet on West 27th in Scottsbluff.
A gift for your home is one you can enjoy all year long. Taylor Furniture in Scottsbluff has beautiful living room, family room, dining room, and bedroom sets. Comfortable rockers, recliners, desks, chairs, occasional tables, and all the accessories to make the home more beautiful. Sale prices throughout the store. If you need a gift for one or the entire family, make it a happy holiday and shop Taylor Furniture at 1310 West 27th Street in Scottsbluff.
The American battleship New Jersey was active again tonight off the coast of Lebanon, hammering Drew's positions in the hills above Beirut, this time with its smaller 5-inch guns. The New Jersey opened up after dark when U.S. Marines at the Beirut airport took fire from Drew's guns. And as Ike Siemens tells us from Lebanon tonight, an American TV news crew was nearly killed today when it entered the Marine base through the wrong gate.
Increasingly nervous as the level of violence continues to rise. 2 Frenchmen were killed today and 3 wounded. The British base received rocket fire this afternoon. Earlier, the Marines opened up on a car carrying 2 American journalists when their Lebanese driver failed to stop. They fired warning shots when he tried to drive through the wrong entrance. The driver was slightly wounded. Newsman Joe Corcoran of WITN in Washington, North Carolina was wounded in the shoulder by glass and metal fragments. He's in good condition after being treated on the USS Guam.
They're in a situation where they pretty much have to fire first and ask questions later.
The Marines were tipped off there was going to be another car bomb attack, and the car was similar to the one they shot at today. Last week, the Marines shot out the tires of another car, which entered a restricted area the same way, through an opening in a line of concrete barriers built to stop terrorist attack. After today's incident, the gap was filled in with dirt. Marine spokesman Major Dennis Brooks admits the base is not secure enough.
You can never have enough security, as the Kuwaiti bombing shows. All that does, it reminds us we must be continually vigilant in what we're doing. And the Marines this morning were, in fact, being vigilant. They did yell out, halt, and fire warning shots.
The Marines know a car loaded with explosives could crash one of their gates, but they say it wouldn't cause a lot of damage since there are no buildings nearby, and heavy security would gun down the driver. Ike Siemens, NBC News, Beirut.
The State Department today admitted that it knew months ago that the U.S. Embassy in Kuwait wanted more money for security there, but it didn't act until it was too late. As Bernard Kalb reports from Washington tonight, it was the case of too little money and too much bureaucracy.
On September 16th, almost 3 months before the U.S. Embassy compound in Kuwait was hit by a truck bomb, embassy officials cabled Washington proposing additional security measures. According to a U.S. official here, a security plan was developed within 2 months, the cost an estimated $100,000. But then a split developed within the State Department. Some offices gave the go-ahead, but one office said money was not available. A major factor in the delay was finding the necessary funds. It wasn't until November that the money was made available, 2 months after the request was received here. The OK wasn't ready to be cabled to the embassy in Kuwait until the very day of the bombing.
The cable authorizing such steps was overtaken by the incident itself, and the tragedy is that the steps that the department finally was able to take were not implemented in time.
According to U.S. officials, a cable was dispatched overseas today advising all U.S. posts to check on security measures. And if local funds were not sufficient to cover any additional costs, the post should inform the State Department and the necessary funds would be made available. Bernard Kalb, NBC News, the State Department.
President Reagan lit the national Christmas tree in the White House grounds tonight, but he had a little help from a 7-year-old terminally ill girl who wants Christmas lights seen all the way to heaven. Amy Benham of Westport, Washington, helped the president push the button. Then he picked her up so she could see the 500 lights on the 30-foot-tall blue spruce. Marie Burgess joins us now for a look at weather. You got your Christmas tree up yet?
Yeah, I have, and I was saying that this weather across a good portion of the U.S. is cooperating along with the holidays, as far as that is concerned. A lot of snow. So as far as we go, maybe some flurries possible, but not a whole lot coming on.
Okay. Marie will tell us all about the weather when we continue right after this.
One and only Susan, let me count the ways I love you. With jewelry this Christmas from Pomida, I'm giving you a diamond pendant and matching diamond earrings, just $49 each this week, and lots of 14-karat gold jewelry. Why not? I save 50%. And a Bulova watch. Pomida has lots of famous brands for men and women, just $34.99.
This Christmas, shop Pomida, because paying less
and giving more
feels great.
Ah, my one and only Susan, and my one and only Brenda. Let me count the ways I love you.
Holiday memories are richer with real eggnog from Brown Swiss Jersey. Fresh and friendly right here at home.
Well, although we did have some sunshine today here in the Scottsbluff area, temperatures really didn't get up all that high. We only reached 26 degrees. However, maybe tomorrow's going to be just a little bit warmer. It calls for our temperatures to reach possibly to the lower 30s. And we just have some occasional flurries forecast for tonight, so it really shouldn't be all that bad. But across the nation, it's a different story. And although winter is just about a week away, we already have it in full swing over a good portion of the U.S. tonight. First of all, let's go ahead and take a look at the western picture. We have snow flurries today all the way from portions of New Mexico, moving a little bit into the Texas Panhandle, a little into southwest Texas, and also into Oklahoma. Some very heavy amounts reported in portions here, and this low pressure system, which is intensifying in New Mexico, is bringing the first snowfall to the southern plains. That was today, and a lot of the ski resorts in New Mexico are finally getting the snow they need there, and the snowfall is moving all the way up into the mountains of Colorado, where we have travelers advisories in effect for a good portion of that. Now, as we move a little bit to the Dakotas, we also have some heavier snowfall from Minnesota, moving a little bit into Michigan and also into northern Illinois. So a lot of snowfall brewing there, and some very gusty winds over the Minnesota and the Dakotas. And because of those real gusty winds, the wind chill factor is about 55 below in portions of I guess I'd say the eastern Dakotas moving a little bit into Minnesota, so not a real pleasant night there, a real chilly, cold night, and I'm sure they're not enjoying that. Once again, the snowfall also continuing into portions of Illinois. As we move to the east coast, snowfall also reported ahead of this stationary front here from New York State down into Pennsylvania. Other than that, we just have a cold front over Florida, but it's relatively quiet tonight over the southeast corner of our nation. Let's take a quick look at our radar and see if we can pick up on some of that precipitation. As you can see, it's relatively quiet here over a good portion of the west. However, in the southern plains, a little bit of movement here, a little bit of heavy precipitation as we move into Oklahoma, and all through the eastern part of the U.S. from the central east here, you can see all this precipitation. However, getting a little bit heavier as we move to the northeast through New York, Pennsylvania, and finally the New England states. As far as our state goes, we had a dramatic improvement in our weather for this evening, and we have basically clear skies over Nebraska. Once again, our high only got up to 26 degrees in Scottsbluff, and let's take a quick look at some more Cornhusker highs. Elsewhere today around the state, Alliance only 23 degrees, just a real chilly day across the state today. Chadron 15, 21 in Grand Island, Lincoln topped out at 18, 20 in North Platte, Omaha 13 degrees was the high there, 26, a little bit better there in Scottsbluff, and finally Valentine only reached 16 degrees. Current temperature is still rather chilly, 10 in Alliance, in Scottsbluff it's 13. Meanwhile in North Platte only 4, 10 in Grand Island, 11 Lincoln, 13 Omaha, currently 6 degrees in Norfolk, the neighboring states, 14 in Denver, Colorado, 15 in Cheyenne, and only 8 degrees in Rapid City. A quick look at our radar should show us nothing. Basically, as you can see, this is a little bit of a wider view than usual, but just the usual ground clutter around the Alliance radar site, but it's relatively clear in the Nebraska Panhandle and our adjoining states. Now, tonight, the forecast calls for variable cloudiness with flurries possible, low from about 2 below to 5 above. So get ready for a real cold night, and winds will be light and variable, while tomorrow is going to be partly cloudy and not as cold, highs in the upper 20s to lower 30s. Doesn't look a whole lot better, but we'll have to see. And tomorrow night, partly cloudy, low around 10 to the mid-teens, while Saturday is going to be mostly cloudy with highs in the upper 20s. Now, our extended weather forecast taking us through Sunday and Tuesday. Very cold, highs only from about 15 to 30 degrees, not a whole lot of relief in sight from those cold temperatures, and our lows from about 18 below to 3 below. Get ready to turn up your electric blankets. Currently in Scottsbluff, skies are clear. The temperature is 13 degrees. Relative humidity is 84%. Winds are east at 8 miles per hour. Relative humidity is 3.00. and falling. So we have a couple of real cold days ahead of us. It looks like even the daytime temperatures aren't really going to get that warm. Maybe tomorrow in the lower 30s. We'll see.
Time to bring the sweaters out of the closet.
Yeah, and the coats too.
Thank you, Marie. At this time of year, we are all exposed to the advertisements and hoopla that generally follow the Christmas season. All those wonderful products are just waiting for us to buy them. This time of year is particularly difficult if you don't have the money to spend. And Rick Jackson reports tonight on the Salvation Army and their efforts to make this Christmas just a little bit merrier.
Everybody who has an orange ticket for toys will be given a toy.
Doors were set to open at 9, but the crowd began forming at 5, apparently anticipating themselves what the Salvation Army could not. Christmas toys, especially new ones, have become a luxury for thousands of Cleveland's poor.
You know, I'm on welfare, and they don't give you much to buy toys with, and have you seen the price of toys?
It took a battalion of volunteers to assist the shoppers.
Give me the pool table. This one?
Many of whom had never seen 10,000 toys, many of whom aren't accustomed to having a choice. So it's worth it to you to stand in line all day?
Yes, sir, all day. If I had to stand out here till in the morning, I would be here.
At the present rate, 10,000 toys will run out Friday. Volunteers claim they do it today if the center stayed open longer. They also say this is just the smallest indication of how many people here are apparently doing without this holiday season. Rick Jackson for NBC News, Cleveland.
The first time I saw an International 2+2, I had to look twice. The nose sticks way out, and the control center's way back. It isn't just another four-wheel drive tractor. Nope, it's a row crop tractor, and its wheels adjust to any row width. The 2+2 may not look like an ordinary tractor, but then it wasn't built to work like an ordinary tractor either.
Machines for the hands that work on the land, and a feel for the work you do.
Kids like kicks for what kicks has got.
Moms like kicks for what kicks has not.
Kicks has corn and that's enough. 'Cause Kicks hasn't got any fancy stuff. No added flavors. Kicks doesn't need 'em. No added colors. Kids love to eat 'em.
It's low in sugar, so it's not too sweet.
A good Kicks breakfast, it's hard to beat. Kids like Kicks for what Kicks has got.
Moms like kicks for what kicks is not. Kicks. Kid tested, mother approved.
Hi, I want to tell you why I think that Lazy Boy is the best recliner you can buy. Lazy Boy features a solid hardwood frame in an all-steel mechanism that is guaranteed as long as you have the chair, no charge. Lazy Boy features a 3-position footrest, and you can ratchet back for easy TV viewing. Lazy Boy features a spring in the small of your back, which is a good idea. With 500 chairs in 17 different styles, we are Western Nebraska's largest Lazy Boy dealer. So come see us.
Well, good evening, everyone. 3 members of the Kansas City Royals and 1 Los Angeles Dodger were suspended from baseball for a year today by Baseball Commissioner Bowie Kuhn for drug use. Willie Wilson, Willie Aikens, and Jerry Martin of the Royals and the Dodgers' Steve Howe were the recipients of the sentences today. The Royals were earlier given 3-month prison terms, while Howe has undergone treatment twice for cocaine. None of the players will be allowed to play in any games during their suspensions. The Royals players' suspensions will be reviewed next May 15th, while Howe will be reviewed at the end of the 1-year suspension. The Royals' Vida Blue, also guilty of illegal drug use, was not mentioned in Kuhn's decision today. Well, Coach Terry Layton was worried about his team thinking too much about the upcoming Christmas break before tonight's game with Mid-Plains. Well, that must have been what happened as the Cougars battled back to take a 2-point lead at the half, only to lose that lead in the second half, along with the game to the Mid-Plains Knights tonight, 97-82. Let's pick up the highlights in the first half of this ball game. Good Mid-Plains team in there tonight. Ted McCune from long range, he hits the jumper. He had 18 points for Mid-Plains. For the Cougars, Russell Starr, nice pass inside to Buck Merriweather for 2. The Cougars trailed most of the first half. Russell Starr gets the steal coming up right here on the fast break. He gets the steal. He'll get it ahead to Stuart Nolan. Nolan all the way in for the slam. He led the Cougars with 27 points. They trailed by 3 at that point. Good defense by Mid-Plains coming up. The pass by James Wood picked off. They go long to John Arco for the uncontested layup to give Mid-Plains a 7-point lead. Nebraska Western came back to lead by 2 at the half, but they lost this one tonight, 97-82. On to the scoreboard tonight, it was Mid-Plains, as you see, over Nebraska Western, 97-82. The Cougars now 8-5. Their next action will be at Hutchinson, Kansas in the Blue Dragon Classic, January 6th and 7th. Elsewhere, it was third-ranked DePaul sneaking by Alabama, while Michigan State down Brooklyn College 85-72.
Ability to win.
And Tom Andrews said this is the Cougars' last game of 1983, but the Chadron State Eagles will be in action this weekend. They'll take on Huron tomorrow night, and they'll be at South Dakota Springfield Saturday night. The Eagles have won 4 straight. They're now 7-5, but the Cougars not so lucky. That's their 3rd straight loss.
Okay. I've tried bowling a couple times, but I never did it quite as good as they did.
No, that's me too.
KDUH-TV4 in Scottsbluff, Hay Springs, and Alliance, part of the Great American West Television Network.
Good evening, I'm Tom McArthur. 3 people were taken to the hospital this afternoon suffering from smoke inhalation and minor burns as a result of a fire at their home here in Scottsbluff. City Fire Marshal Ken Meyer says the fire was started by a child playing with a cigarette lighter. Meyer says the house at 1106 10th Avenue suffered an estimated $20,000 damage. The 3 people who were injured were treated and released from the hospital this afternoon. The 1984 state legislative session opens tomorrow, and senators face a variety of heated issues. Christian schools, property tax relief, the demise of Commonwealth Savings Company, and salaries for state employees are just a few of the questions state lawmakers will have to grapple with. In addition, 240 of the 632 bills introduced last year will be carried over to the 1984 session. Governor Kerry will start the session with a brief address to the senators tomorrow morning. The uncertified Faith Christian School in Louisville reopened today in defiance of a court order. School supporters say they have asked state officials to release 7 men jailed in an earlier reopening of the school. Now, the head of the school's crisis management team says he wants the state legislature to solve the situation. Clay Nuttall says that if no action is taken by January 18th, supporters will work 24 hours a day to focus national attention on the issue. The issue has drawn some national attention already. Jim Cummins reports.
Jim Cummins, NBC News, Louisville, Nebraska.
If you happened to drop by the Scottsbluff County Administration Building this morning, you would have noticed long lines at the auto registration offices. As Newsline's Marie Burgess reports, this will be a regular occurrence during the next couple of weeks as county motorists renew their auto registrations.
Marie Burgess, Newsline.
Pesticide applicators whose federal certification expires this year must renew their certification before the expiration date to continue use of restricted pesticides. That applies to the blue federally issued card, but not to the green state-issued card. About 1,900 Nebraskans certified in the categories of ag plant, right-of-way aquatics, and demonstration and research are affected. If you happen to drive or walk by the northern end of Broadway today, you probably saw some crews at work cutting and trimming the trees. The Nebraska Public Power District here in the city of Scottsbluff is cutting the trees for several reasons. Primarily, it's because of the city's move to convert its mercury vapor street lights to high-pressure sodium lights on streets and intersections throughout the city. NPPD's Western Regional Manager Dan Sterup says the trimming and cutting back is the first step toward the installation of the new lights.
And we're basically having to trim and cut back the trees in order to eliminate the blockage for lighting the streets and the intersections. We decided as long as we're going to put in a new street lighting system and go to high-pressure sodium that we ought to give the best illumination we can to the street and the intersections. At the same time, the city was consulted, and they have a need to eliminate some trees because of some sidewalk problems in that area where the sidewalk is being heaved up, and also because of some potential problems with the water lines, where the older trees are getting roots down into the water line area. So we approached the city and have been working with the city to determine which trees to trim and which to cut, and basically eliminate our problem and their problem.
Sterup says within 2 years, all of the streetlights in the city will have the high-pressure sodium lamps, which he says put out more light for less power. Enough less, he says, that it will save the city $35,000 a year in streetlight bills.
It's a more efficient way to light the streets because it puts out more lighting per kilowatt of energy than what the mercury vapor does.
And Sterup says they started the program on the city's main streets 2 months ago. If you want to see what the new lights will look like, you can drive down Avenue I from the tracks south to East Overland and see if you notice any difference. Some good news today from Nebraska Western College. School officials there report the highest enrollment figure in the school's history. Newsline's Jeff Kelly tells us more.
Reporting from Scottsbluff, Jeff Kelly for Newsline.
Good evening. Newsline Update is next here on Channel 4. Tonight with these stories. Senator Exon held a news conference at Scottsbluff County Airport this afternoon. A fire over the weekend at the Great Western Sugar Company. And Nebraska Beef Processors is getting some support in their fight against the USDA.
Clear and cold tonight, and tomorrow's going to be partly cloudy and cooler with highs in the mid-30s to just about 40.
And in sports, Mike Rozier follows in the footsteps of Herschel Walker and snubs the NFL for the USFL as he becomes a member of the Pittsburgh Maulers and will have the UPI top 10 ratings from college basketball as well as highlights from college and professional basketball.
Join us if you can for Newsline Update next. Scottsbluff City Engineer Paul Sensabaugh says while potholes are normal, we haven't seen quite this many of them for several years. The more freeze-thaw cycles we have, he says, the more numerous the potholes.
A lot of it depends on, too, how much salt and sand you're going to have to use during those storms to work in the crevices, and that in turn helps the freeze-thaw action, thereby, helping pop this material out. As long as the material stays frozen, you have pretty stable material, but once you get a thaw and it lasts for a few days, then you can expect them to come up like mushrooms all over the place.
Sensabaugh says a number of factors contribute to creating potholes. A weak base or a subgrade that was improperly prepared in places, utility trenches, or damage from a previous year all combine to let in water, which then expands when it freezes and loosens the asphalt.
It's kind of a tough time of the year to do potholes. Normally, if you have a late winter, your spring comes and you have good working conditions. Right now, to repair a pothole, we have to heat it and get a radiant heating so we can get a bond between the patch and the asphalt. If we don't get that, next week we're going to be back. So it takes a little bit longer, and hopefully people will be patient and understand that. We will get the major ones first and then work our way through town.
Well, the meaning of Christmas is not just receiving, but giving, too. And we saw a good example of that here in Scottsbluff today. This is Lincoln Heights Elementary School here in Scottsbluff. At any other time of the year, you'd be able to see reading, writing, and arithmetic being taught. But today, something special was going on behind these doors.
We're bringing the food to use for the needy people who aren't poor.
You think that's a pretty good idea?
Yeah. We're giving food to the poor people that are needy.
In just your community here, is that how that works? These kids and some 300 of their classmates have been collecting cake mixes, pie filling, soup, and vegetables since late November, resulting in more than $350 worth of food to be given away to area families having a difficult time making ends meet this holiday season. Lincoln Heights Principal Larry Wilson says this year's food drive has gone along very well.
This is our third year for the project, and it's really worked out well for the kids and for everyone concerned. It just kind of gets them in the spirit of giving and sharing with others.
Wilson says the food will be boxed up and given to families within the school's attendance area.
That's in the Lincoln Heights area, yes. We ask for people to submit names of families that they knew that might be a little hard up at this time of the year, and that's where the food will go.
Students at Longfellow Elementary School also collected food this year, as did the Scottsbluff Junior High Student Council. Nice job. We'll be right back. Well, it's the night before Christmas, and Santa is busy, and his hectic pace would drive anyone dizzy. But at one certain house, his head will be reeling, for at this house, you see, their trees on the ceiling.
It's 2 nights before Christmas and nobody's uptight. Not a McElroy is stirring, 'cause it's not hung up right. Mary Wallace in Los Angeles reporting for NBC News.
That's some house. And that's Newsline Update for this Christmas Eve. From all of us here at Channel 4, Feliz Navidad, Joyeux Noel, Fröhliche Weihnachten, Gute Jul, Merry Christmas. Good night.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Growing with the Panhandle. This is KDUH-TV4, part of the Great American West Television Network.
And that is all from KDUH. Thank you for watching.